Welcome back to Anbennar. This may be the penultimate episode of our Dahui playthrough. Time to come crashing down on those who continue to defy us, starting with these free slave folk. Our truce ends in about a month, so I think we'll just wait for that. Let's get our army into position first of all though. Although, do we have any rebellions that are about to trigger? We got one down here. We actually have quite a big rebellion by the usual suspects, but nothing really too crazy revolt-wise. If we switched out to a theologist, it would solve it, so I think we'll just do that. That should put most of the revolts down into the Nowheresville category. We'd like to avoid any distractions that could distract us when we're busy dealing with our enemies elsewhere. But yes, let's bring all of our armies together. Are the Free Slaves allied, or are they noteworthy? Not really, they're pretty much alone. Just these small nations that have kind of become quite big, I must say, in Sarhal, but I doubt they'll provide much help. So as I said, bring all the armies over. Now we'll wait a month. Truce has expired, but we don't have a diplomat available for the moment. Just need to wait an extra month, I guess. And here we go, most of our army's in position. We still got a few people out the ways, but I don't think we're going to need them desperately. We can probably just fight and win. Our vassal does have a few cores on them. We'll see about returning that land to them, but we may just ignore that land for the moment. We're not going to be able to full annex them, obviously. It's going to take at least around 3 wars. We'll see how it goes though. What do we want to take? The obvious thing to do would be to cut them up. Then we're going to make Bim Lao our target. It's a pretty nice province. It's got all sorts of weird spirits in it. So we'll declare war. The Free Slaves are currently at war down in Sarhel though, so maybe their response will be a little weak. We'll have to see. Well, this has been a very simple war so far. We haven't seen any of their soldiers. As I mentioned, they must all be over in the other continent. Oh, well actually, no, those are just allies, but I guess there are 3,000 of them up here. Either way though, they're not stopping us sieging down all their land. And that's what I like to see. They should just roll over and accept their fate. They'll be a lot better off part of our nation anyway. There goes their capital. I guess we'll just blanket siege them now for the moment. Not much else to do. And I suppose we'll start moving over and occupying their allies. Piecing them out will help rack up war score. Well, there goes their allies. We'll piece them out. Disappointing performance from the Free Slaves. We didn't even fight a battle with them. But maybe that's for the best. So what should we take? We of course have the 4 provinces our vassals have cores on. Hand them over via this. I'm thinking we take something like where we just separate them from themselves. Something like this. Just kind of wrap them up while of course taking Bim Lao. Something like that. Just kind of cut them in twain in preparation for a future war while bringing us to the gate to their capital. I think we'll do this. Nothing too crazy. Gives us a lot of the more valuable forted up territory and sets the stage for the next war. Get all that land cored up. We have a bit of a coalition form against us, but that shouldn't be a big deal. It's mainly just made up of the vassals of the Raj. We've also got a bit of a rebellion back home. It's only 31,000 men. Nothing to really challenge Dahui. We'll send the boys round to deal with them. When will the peasants finally learn their place? One day, hopefully. Hopefully around the same time all of the other nations also learn their place within the grand scheme of things. Usually just as a part of Dahui. And other times, completely destroyed. We are having a few rebellions in the land we just conquered. One thing we're going to do though is we're actually going to let these guys rebel. And if they have claims or cores on the Free Slaves, we're going to let them pass through our lands essentially. Since these lands are cut off, there's a good chance the rebels will win and be able to liberate the territory, potentially create new nations that we can then just conquer. For that reason, we're kind of just going to ignore the ones that have the cores as mentioned. Hopefully they do cross the border and make trouble for our enemies. These guys here should cross the border soon. They have occupied all of our cores. Yep, there they go. We'll wait a little bit before we liberate our cores, because if we liberate them too soon, they'll likely just come back across the border. We want them to go deep into the other people's territories. We've begun our first temple quest. These are a somewhat generic series of events where we can explore a tomb. We can pick who we send on the trip, who provides bonuses of a kind. I quite like sending barbarians, but it feels like it could go either way. We won't lose much sleep over it. Aha, and we've managed to finish our quest, finding the heart of the temple. Now we can decide what to do with this heart. We can mine it and sell it for an extra 5,000 gold. It will reduce the temple in the province though to a ruin, or we can give it to the mages, which will make them happy for 20 years and increase their influence for 2 years. Personally, I would just take the money. I'm sure there'll be no consequences to this decision. We've managed to successfully complete the Man the Forts mission. Always hard to do because I have to remember to do certain things. Now we're pretty close to finishing our mission tree. We're going to need to raise an army of 1 million men. We also need to finish these missions, but they're not too hard. I just need to build some manufacturers around. I've been trying to coax these rebels to leave my borders and cross over into our enemies, but they've been causing nothing but trouble, so I think we're just going to murder them. They had their chance to be useful to Dahui, and now they die. Ah, finally. For centuries, Yan merchants have maintained a presence in the Ringlet Sea, ushering trade from the Gulf of Rahen to Yanshen proper. Our Kellen's Yan quarter sprung up nearly as soon as Jahir's fleeing legions made the port town their bastion. These merchants were joined by their less savoury brethren, pirates, when the dread Queen of Pinghoi led her armada south after annihilating the Phi Ten fleet in 1438 AA. A martial feat much admired by Jinzhu Long, the Pinghoi buccaneers went on to achieve similar success against Arol Kellen and Tamran, from whom they seized the great harbour city of Khe Kam Sith. De facto rule has a way of producing de jure legitimacy, so when we conquered the seas and jungles of the south, we chose to elevate these local Yan to positions of power. Their absolute loyalty would be assured through our shared language and history, and through Dahui's armies being the only protection they had against the local populace's ill inclination to sea reavers becoming rulers. The Dao, the Jian, and plenty of musket balls have indeed been needed to pacify the islanders and jungle dwellers to the far south, but less so each year as boats of settlers from Yanshen proper float up the Yantung Kala or dock in the Ringlet Isles. Away from the strictures of Yanshen proper, these now, I assume, new arrivals quickly adopt the old pirates' loose dress, hodgepodge weapons, and dehawk sense of propriety. These new Pinghoi are barely more civilized than the natives over which they've come to rule, or so complains the Marshal of Awar Kellen in an indignant letter to the Office of Integration. However, their efficiency in taming the interior and its inhabitants has been illustrated in the rapid decline in rebellions in the interior. Great forests of teak have been clear-cut to make way for rice paddies, the timber floating downstream to our mills and workshops. Exotic animals have found their place in the homes and kitchens of aristocrats. Colourful birds, terrifying snakes, and succulent arachnids. Even 5 of the exquisite women of Tilaga Patong arrive in the Imperial harem, gifts from the local chieftains. Unclothed as they may be, these Pinghoi have been hard at work bringing Yanshen to the far south and the far south to Yanshen. Marvellous past the Python. All of the cultures in the Ringlet Isles and the rainforest area will now transition to this new culture. Pinghoi. Brilliant, always good to see another of our friendly Yans taking their place in the world. While waiting for the truce to expire with the free slaves, we're going to attack that other small nation here who I definitely can't pronounce. They are allied with the Raj, so we'll need to be a little aware, but I'm not sure the Raj can defy us. I suppose we'll give them the chance to try. Just as we're about to declare war, a coalition formed against us, but it's only got these guys, one of the vassals of the Raj, and these guys. We might try and full annex them depending on how it goes. We're not going to be able to full annex these people though. Their nation's too big. But I am going to say we're going to take their capital. It's a pretty valuable province and a pretty expensive one. So if I only grab it, it'll be worth it. We'll see if the Raj can do anything to save these guys. I very much doubt it though. It looks like the Raj is actually distracted in a war up here. I didn't really intend it, but they're not really around, it seems, to defend these guys. Maybe it's for the best. No, they could do much defending, right? As mentioned, we're not going to be able to full annex these guys. So I think what we do instead is we just take their core or capital province, or state, and leave the rest for a later war. Ooh, Zoka has managed to turn into a demon lord, essentially. Funny, considering they are still just a vassal of the Raj. They are very rebellious though. Maybe one day they'll assert themselves. I doubt they're going to do much world eating though in this playthrough. And if they try, it'll be up to Dahui to stop them. Heroes that we are. Ah, there's the Raj's army. Let's see how they fare against Dahui's might. We definitely beat them on discipline, but they're a little better than us when it comes to morale. To be fair, they do have an advisor online, and we do have our ruler as a craven, which is affecting things. Let's send another 60,000 men up to ensure this is a victory. It's only fair, they sent in their own extra 70,000. I was thinking maybe we could shatter the Raj here, but it's going to be too expensive to take their capital, I think. We'll siege it down and see what the numbers look like after, but as I said, it doesn't feel likely. While this is going on, our truce has expired with Dangan. I think we're going to declare war right now, even though we're busy. Our vassals in the area might be able to keep them in check until we turn back north. I do just want to wipe them out for giving us near total control of the region up here. Do we have any armies hanging around? Nah. We are going to start expanding our armies in a little bit. Once this war's over, likely. There goes the Raj's capital. We might actually lose this battle up here. I might have been a little too hasty. Yeah, we lost there. Too bad. That's our first loss of the war, I think. But yes, could we take the capital of the Raj? We can't. That's to be expected, though. What should we do with them, then? I guess we could have them break their alliances with these two small states so that they won't intervene in future wars. I was kind of hoping that we could annex these guys up here during the war, but it would take all of our war score essentially to do it, and it's not like they're that big of a deal, and it's not like they're causing us much trouble, so we'll leave them. They can live for now. We just need to siege out the last ally, and then we'll send 2 of our regiments north to deal with the Daggunnies. We shouldn't need more than that. There we go, these guys are beaten down. We'll take their vital capital. How are we looking on this mission? We have 8 of the 20 provinces we need, so we need 12 more. This one will count, so that's 9. This one needs a temple, so it won't. This one needs a temple. Just mass build workshops, and then we'll mass build temples too everywhere we can. Might do a bit of deving to get all of the locations that we need to have temples in, but I think it would be fine. There's the Daggunnies defeated. We'll just full annex them. I'd like to say you were a good rival, Dagun, but you weren't really. It's best that you're just destroyed. With that, we have near universal control of this region or subcontinent. There's just the few Canorians that have managed to colonize up here, and I'm hesitant to fight them just because it sounds really boring and unpleasant. Maybe I should, though, just get them out the way. War might explode into a much larger conflict, though, if they pull in other people, but it's unlikely they'll actually be able to get to us to fight us. Maybe I'm being too cautious. Wesdam, though, would definitely cause a problem because they're part of the Empire. Although the Emperor wouldn't protect them. Maybe this is a good point. Since the Emperor won't protect them, we should jump them, perhaps. Let's do it. What's the worst that could happen? What's their most expensive province here? Well, this one has a fort, so we'll set this fort province as our goal. We'll declare war. I'll be surprised if Wesdam actually has much success bringing their army over to us. But I suppose we'll see. It'll be exciting. Let's see if the Wesdam can prove themselves. I'm leaning towards no. Should we attack the Vikings while we're here? Ooh, actually, they're allied with these guys, aren't they? I don't really want to fight them again. Or maybe we should just bite the bullet. Bite the bullet, fight them again. Just so I can say I did. And unify the entire region. Maybe let's deal with Wesdam first, just so we can focus our full attention. One of the problems with fighting a war like this, of course, is we full occupied them essentially. But now we just have to wait for the war score to tick up because we can't really get to them. We don't know where they are in the world. Well, I mean, we do, but we can't physically get to them. I guess we could walk, but I don't care to. While we wait for the war score to tick up, I guess it's time we start expanding our army. We need to get up to the 1,000,000 men. I'm not sure if we could sustain 1,000,000 men with our current economy. We should be able to. We'll go up to 500,000 and see what the numbers look like. But we're making 400 ducats a month, and we could cut back on that a fair bit by reducing the amount of forts we have, or moving our trade capital to a better location. So I said, let's see what the armies look like when it comes to costs, and if it's looking good, we'll expand even further. Armies are expanded. It is looking quite good economically. Still making 200 ducats. Could expand further. I think we'll go up to around 600. We'll see what 600 regiments looks like. We're at 600 regiments. I'm still feeling pretty good. Let's go up even further. Let's say 750. We can always just slap these 2 missions, which will give us a bunch of money and manpower, depending on how things look. We've run into a bit of a deficit now because we're so far over our force limit. We need to expand it. We could just make a rush for the 1,000,000 men and then cut back once we reach it. because we only need to have done it and then become hegemony, and then we shouldn't need to keep it up for the mission. It should just be done. War is still ongoing with the Wezdami. They'll peace out whenever they want to, I guess. Let's use the opportunity to go war with somebody else. Let's clean up this tiny nation that exists here. Our truce has expired with the free slaves, so I think it's time we beat them up as well. Should we return Allied core land in this war? Could we take all of the territory here? Let me just do the math quick. I don't think so, just based off the numbers. So I think what we'll focus on doing is taking the land that our allies don't have cores on, and then we'll return, or maybe we should just fight a war to return these cores really quickly. I think that would be the better tactic. Just get it out the way, get the cores to our ally, and then not have to worry about it ever again, or at least until next time we need to do such a maneuver. We do have lots of armies now, which makes it very tedious to handle all of our soldiers, but hopefully it doesn't become too bad. There we go, we'll just take the provinces of our vassal. We'll also return some cores to the nations on the other side of the continent, just to weaken the free slaves a little more. These guys have now reached their full height, so we're safe to think about start integrating them. How are the Wezdam? Still a little against it. Once the war lasts a little longer though, and more of their allies peace out, they should surrender. Alright, time to peace out with Wezdam. They're willing to give us all of their locations up here. Since Bersilea is also in the war, I would like to take all of their land, but they're not going to accept that unfortunately, so I'll just take... I guess I'll just take one province. Too bad we can't take all of them obviously, but one will have to do for now. At least that's one interloper removed from the region. There's just the Vikings left in the north now, and of course the other nations that have invaded the Ringlet Sea. Let's start threatening more of them to give back their land. Now there's only 3 left. Laurent, the last province of Pearl's Edge, and of course Bersilea. Liberation is close at hand. Alright, I think it's time to bite the bullet. We're going to complete these 2 missions, or... Ooh, one of the locations needs to be prosperous here. They were all prosperous a moment ago. Someone must have dipped. I guess we'll just have to wait then for one of these. It was likely this province here. Probably got sieged down at some point. These ones up here are close to being prosperous though, so I guess we'll just wait a little bit. But once we complete this mission here, the cost of regiments is going to be reduced by 15%. During that time, we're likely just going to massively expand our army up to get to the 1 million men we need. And damn the consequences. We can always bring our army size back down once that goal has been achieved, of course. So it's not like it's the end of the world if we do find our economy doing a bit poorly once we've enacted those expansions. There we go, that was fast. We're all prosperous. We gain 140,000 manpower. Now it's time. Let's expand those armies. There, that brings us to a little over 1 million. More than enough for us to complete this mission and become hegemony. Now we just need to wait for them to be born. There, 1 million men are online. We'll immediately embrace the military hegemony. And we'll complete this mission, an army of millions. Over 1.5 millennia ago, a Raheni conqueror leapt from the west and tore through Yanhe with vicious fang and furious claw. 1,000 years later, another western tyrant crossed the Karuyana into our lands and burned them with pitiless phoenix fire. In the century since then, we have rebuilt Yanhe and united its people into the most glorious and radiant realm in all the epochs of the world. We have marched north into the brutal steppe, where the thunder of our cannons drowned out the stampede of terror birds. We have marched south into the fetid jungles, where cascades of our musket balls drench the savages and pirates. The time for the west to feel the buffeting winds of the storm cloud and the cleansing fire of the dragon has come. We gain claims on essentially all of Rahen, and we gain a few more missions. Now, of course, has come the time to crush the Raj. What's the current situation? We have a truce with these guys, we have a truce with these guys. We do not have a truce with the Raj. Is it time we just roll onto them? It might be. We're close to completing the religious ideas, so it's kind of tempting to hold out for the Casus Belli that we're going to get from them. I think we are going to hold out. It shouldn't take too long, just a few months. We're getting quite a lot of admin a month. Can we sustain our army being funded? We'll definitely go into the red if we fund our army at the moment. We could definitely cut back on a lot of the soldiers that are still being created. Or maybe let's let everyone be created and then we'll cut back the amount of armies. Maybe we'll just cut back some right now. Or maybe not. I kind of feel like we should keep everyone online. Hard to say. Let's cut back a few armies. We'll cut back this one. We'll cut back this one. And let's cut back one more. That should be enough for us to stay in the green during a war, hopefully, at least. There we go, we've completed religious ideas. Now it's time. We've allowed the Raj to continue to exist for a tad longer than we maybe should have. But it's time to correct that. Dahui doesn't care much for religion, but at the very least, we're not against using it for our own purposes. Let us cleanse the heresy of the Raj. Since we have so many armies now, I find it hard to believe the Raj can pose anything close to a threat. Annoyance is the word I think of when I think of the Raj at this point. We'll see though, maybe they'll surprise us. This is definitely the sort of point in EU4 where I'm like, though, because I have to move all these armies around and there's just so many of them. The sort of army tedium that I was really hoping EU5 would fix, but we can't be that lucky. Also going to declare war on these guys at the same time. We're not going to be able to full annex them though. But we should be able to at least take their capital, which is quite expensive, and reduce them down enough so that we can phalanx them in the next war. They were actually guaranteed by the Raj, but since the Raj is busy, they're not going to intervene. We've also finished our reforms. We've reached the final reform. The obvious option is to go for political absolutionism. I do quite like right to petition though, just because it means no stability loss on ruler death. But we want to get our absolution up, so we're going to grab political absolutionism. Oh, manufacturing spawned. It didn't spawn in our lands though, which is too bad. I didn't bother to check how likely it was to spawn, but it didn't spawn here. The Raj looks like they've had enough. The question is, what do we want? Really, we want all of their land. We want to annex their whole nation, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take around 600 war score to annex their entire nation. We definitely want to nab their capital though, so we can shatter the Raj. Maybe we'll just take territory in this area, and then take this city here. That might be fine. I'm kind of want to leave the Raj's vassals alone because they're all going to be, they should all be released from the Raj, so we can deal with them separately. We've defeated these guys up here. It's going to put us over our overextension limit, just annexing these few provinces. We'll immediately start integrating them. Alright, the Raj has now had enough. We'll, as discussed, take their capital and shatter the Raj. The Raja has fallen. Perfect. That's one problem solved. We'll of course need to full annex the Raja at a later date, but for now, they've been defeated. We've got 3 years or so until our truce with the free slaves end, and then we can attack them as well. As such, we're just going to chill out for a bit, let the old aggressive expansion dissipate a bit and integrate all that land that we've taken before we continue our relentless advance. And we've had a new culture appear. Dragon Emperor Jinju VI has set out on a royal tour of his northern territories, accompanied by his entourage of marshals and court dignitaries eager to see the rugged steppes of Shuva Shudi and picturesque river valleys of Gowan. Crossing over the black mist hills in the shadow of the Dragon Peak, they come to the wide prairies that once hosted vast flocks of wild terror birds. The mounts of the faceless queen and her hordes, now they're nothing more than heaps of skeletons piled on the plains or curiosities corralled on the estates of Yanhe aristocrats. Jinju VI had the pleasure of feasting on roast terror bird at the estate of one such aristocrat on the shores of the Dakil Beg Nuk. The Dragon Emperor takes notes to the aristocrat servants, carving and plating the beast to speak perfect Yan with a slight rural twang. Floating down the Kong Niaohi to the northern bastions of Jietsang, Dragon Emperor and his entourage board a squadron of ships bound for the great port of Onman. Once the heart of the isolationist Gowon, the city has now opened to ships from Yanshen and beyond, evidenced by the sprawling complex housing the harbour master's office. Touring the city's famed schools, Jinju VI is pleased to find the instruction for budding bureaucrats is being given in the local Yan dialect. The province's marshals relates to the Dragon Emperor as they share a pot of tea that the local youngsters in Gowan and the old lands of Vutshuvish have begun referring to themselves as Shao Kyun, claiming both their old heritage and a new Yan identity. Curious past the terror bird. All of our people in this subcontinent will now become this new culture. Isn't it beautiful? Oh god, here we go. I've been waiting for this. Curses, not again. My friends exchange wary looks as our ball descends the dark and claustrophobic spiral staircase. Losing the ball inside the high temple, was not an unusual event, but each instance proved to be a nerve-wracking ordeal, shrouded in the chilling darkness below. Despite our hesitance, we venture into the foreboding High Temple to retrieve our lost bull. Deep within the dimly lit halls, we finally spotted the bull and hastily turned to leave. However, we knew it was already too late. An unusual sensation crept up my spine, but before I could ponder it further, I rushed to catch with my friends, climbing the stairs frantically. Just as I was about to escape the last of the shadows, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. I spun around in horror, only to catch a fleeting glimpse of a malevolent grin retreating into the darkness. My heart pounding in my chest and a primal fear overcoming me, I let out a blood-curdling scream and sprinted up the stairs, not daring to look back. My breath was ragged as I raced straight home. Upon my arrival, panting and terrified, my mother brushed off my claims, dismissed them as childish imagination. My father scoffed, attributing the scratch to a stray animal. However, my grandmother, her eyes hollow and distant, whispered with eerie certainty, "They are coming, and our time is running out." The weight of her words sank deep into my soul, leaving me trembling with a sense of impending doom. Unsettling, right? Reports like this are coming in from across the realm. I'm certain it is no cause for concern. Ooh, here we go. Horrible monstrosities from the beyond have appeared all over the realm. In fact, not just our realm, the world in general, or at least, alas. 700,000 of them, in fact. We need to marshal our armies to deal with them. The rending of the realms has begun. For millennia, the High Temple stood as enigmas, constructed in a bygone era by realm long faded from memory, their true purpose shrouded in mystery. Over the ages, philosophers wrestled with the meaning behind the intricate inscriptions, sages sought to untangle the prophecies they held, and the cursed dared to harness their power for their own ends. And with every endeavour, they cast yet another pebble onto the temples, each one adding to the countless others, slowly cracking its shell. For a single pebble accomplished nothing. Two achieves little, but thousands of pebbles make a difference. A scratch evolved into a crack, and a crack into a wound. While a lone wound may invoke little concern, thousands of wounds is insurmountable. Much like the fate of the High Temples, already weakened, these temples crumbled swiftly, eroded by time's inexorable passage, both in a tangible and abstract sense. Even the most robust walls of the most pristine temples succumbed to the torrent of thousands of spirits, suddenly reinvigorated after eons of imprisonment. The High Temples shattered, a deluge of spirits, countless in number, flooding streets as a supernatural tide, rending land and engulfing nations. From towering peaks to shadow valleys, the landscape teemed with spectral entities, a veritable invasion as spirits both minute and great converged, driven by a singular purpose: evade the confines of the High Temples and being free once more. And so Halas descended into chaos and fear. Spirits inhabit every nook and cranny, some benign, though some seem to hold an inexorable aggression towards those that dared to suppress them for so many eons. While the spirits reap what we may have sown, our people react in a multitude of ways, spawning doomsday cults prophesizing the end, or rallying against the state's paralysis due to the rending and demanding action. Yet the majority quiver within their homes, a deceptive sanctuary as the rending affects everyone and reaches everything. May the ancestors guide us and guard us. Now we get one of Dahui's unique events, and one of the last ones for Dahui in the game. Ever since the awakening of the mighty Yanhe, the court of Dahui had been one of chaos. Dragon Emperor Jinju VI continued to stress over the many issues that his rise has caused, both across the land and within his mind as well. Dahui has long claimed its legitimacy as mantle of the Yanhe, the mighty dragon army marching across the Yan River under the banner of its fearsome might, striking panic into their enemies. However, this has been brought into question by some of those opposing us. With the onset of the rending and the end of his slumber, how can we claim the mantle of Yanhe when Yanhe rampages in our lands, bringing devastation in his wake? What legitimacy do we have to this title when its namesake is busy causing untold damage to our realm? What was once whispers had now become the dominant argument amongst the court of Dahui, any semblance of decorum and peace long since gone. One such argument has been ongoing for hours. Jinju VI, long since exasperated at the going on between his retinue, as the foundations seemingly shake. Violent tremors rock the fortified basement room deep within the heart of the Dragon King's castle. The roof, no, the building itself, tears off its foundations. flung off to some far corner of the city as the colossal form of Yanhe looks down upon the members of Jinju VI's court. His body is that of a violent storm, huge in his stature. His body filled the sky of Bianfang with lightning and thunderous sounds to match his thunderous roar. His being excluded raw, violent power. To the Dragon Emperor of Dahui, Jinju VI, you claim the mantle of my domain, my name as your title, as you spread your influence along the length of my river. I find your claim to this mantle bold, yet I cannot help but be impressed with your recent achievements, if only somewhat. So I come to your court with an offer. Pledge yourself to me and my service. Tear down these abhorrent chains to my being, and you shall be rewarded in kind, orates the Great Spirit, voice booming down from the Great Dragon's maw. The response from the members of the court was immediate, a violent outcry from the most zealous faithful of the high philosophy's teachings, demanding an immediate and violent response. Jinju VI ignored them, only speaking up to ask the spirit above him, and what if I decline? Voice more fearful than confident. Then I will take my due. The only response. The outcry from the other member of Jinju VI's retinue increased at this. Voices congealed into a loud mass of debate and argument, although none reached Jinju VI's ears. All but deafened to the reality around him, he was lost within the confines of his own mind. All that he had fought for, all that they had held, could be lost, and then some at this very moment. To abandon his teachings, all he had known for years, would be the height of blasphemy, and the response would be far from measured and calm, but the alternative, the wrath of Yanhe himself, weighs heavily on the shoulders of Jinju VI. At last, silencing the court, the Dragon Emperor responds. So we have two choices here. The Yan has but one Dragon King, and who am I to defy him? The first option will result in our heir being killed, we'll lose a point of stability, and a bunch of spirit rebels will show up in our capital. The second option will lose us 4 stability, we will embrace the Mystic Accord as our state religion, and we will become the chosen of Yanhe for 20 years. Personally, I think both options have merit from a lore perspective, but personally, for this campaign, I think we're going to say, who are we to defy him, and join the Mystic Accord. In this playthrough, Dahui has had no problem aligning with monstrous creatures or creatures that have been looked down upon by the rest of the population. They've actively gone against their philosophical religion multiple times in order to tolerate these people, such as the hobgoblins, the vampires, the onis, even the dwarves. And so I think it would be appealing to them to once again make a pact with a being that isn't really accepted by the rest of the world in exchange for power. And I mean, it's quite a bit of power, plus 15 morale for our armies for 15 years, aggressive expansion impact minus 20, and administrative efficiency plus 5 as well as and with also an extra missionary and some missionary strength. And that's before we even actually look at the religion and the rending. So as I said, Dahui is going to adapt like he has adapted to every other situation. We will join the spirits in their revolt. It's going to be a while before we can really use our religion though, because our religious unity is really sapping our monthly faith power. We've also been immediately set to appeasing Yanhe, the father of kings, often known by his awe-inspiring title, the Thrashing Dragon. We've actually already achieved some of his goals. One is to destroy the command, that's already done. The other is to tolerate a bunch of different races. He wants humans, kobolds, dwarves, haramari, elf, orcs, goblins, hobgoblins, and harpies all to be tolerated, which they are, so that's done. One thing we need to do is get development up to 60 in Bianfang and build 10 buildings. We're currently at 51, so we're not far off. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings. We just need to build a few more. We need absolute rule, which is going to be a little difficult. We need to get our absolutionism up to 80, but we're going to begin cracking down on the estates right now. Actually, we're going to switch out our bureaucratic reform, expanding the royal court to royal favoritism, which will remove the diet, which will in turn remove supremacy of the nobility, which is going to lead to a big decrease in influence of the estates for now. The only other thing we need to do is construct all of the golden highways, which I believe we have, but we need every region to be prosperous, which they're not right now because of these spirits probably reducing the prosperity of the locations that they were sieging down. So once we've cleaned up the spirits, the problem should be solved. So let's get to doing that. Even though we're still somewhat reeling from the Spirit Tide, we're going to have to convert all of our provinces to Mystic Accord, which is going to take a while because there's a lot of provinces. I do want to continue our advance. As such, we're going to go to war with the free slaves. See if we can't cut them down fully. They're going to call some people in. We're going to see if we can't full annex these people as separate pieces just to get them out of the way permanently. Our economy's taking a bit of a bashing due to us being so far over our force limit, and from all of our provinces suddenly just switching sides and being a different religion. Yes, it was them, not us, that converted, obviously. We might need to cut back on our military size. It's not like we really need it to be as large as it is, but it's nice to have it as large as it is, because as long as we're over the 1 million army size, we keep gaining the benefits of being the military hegemony, and it ticks up, increasing the benefits. But to be honest, it's probably not that big of a deal. Cutting down on the army size is probably just a better idea in order to improve the economy. We can always just remake them later once the situation's stabilized. We're going to full annex these grey guys. They are just co-belligerents, so it's going to cost us some dip. It's going to anger some people though, but if we look at this, nearly every nation listed here is one of the former vassals of the Raj. 2 of these nations are actually our subjects who are going to take offense, so I'm not really that bothered at this point. There's not much these former Raj states, or even the Raj itself, can do against us. So earning their ire doesn't really bother me. They're going to annex this little guy here. Again, people take offense, but it's mainly just people in the region, and we're not really bothered. They can be offended. I'll be offended with them. Finally, we'll also annex this tiny nation. And now, the free slaves. What to do with you? We're going to take your capital. We're also going to take this little island where they tend to hide their military on, making it hard to actually reach them. Then, I think we'll take their land bordering the Raj, like this, and trap them inside of our land. They'll still have these bits of territory over here, but we don't really care. At least this way the Raj won't be able to expand and conquer them. They'll be safe within our embrace. Now we can complete this mission and decide the fate of a certain segment of the population. As Dragon Emperor Jinju VI of Dahui stepped off the royal barge, his senses are immediately overwhelmed with the sights, sounds and smells of Saramea. It had been many months since he had departed from Zhaoming on the tour of Dahui's new territory, passing under the shadow of Mount Dugayasa with thousands of Corvi labourers portaging the royal flotilla from the Yanhe to the Karanyana, receiving the finest wares from the porcelain cities, and finally arriving at the mouth of the great river. He takes in the grandest city of Rahen. Walking through the grand braziers, he sees goods from every corner of the world. Canorian firearms, mithril plate from the Dwaravar, fine hardwood from the Lupulan, and exotic animals from Aelintir. At the heart of the market stands thousands of the city's most famous wares from as many a diverse origin. Nude and shackled to each other, some weep while others stoically stare at the Dragon Emperor. Some of the more superstitious commoners tell stories of the dragon spirit Yanhe liberating the ancient Yan, who had been enslaved by a race of evil wizards. While this myth has no basis in the historical records, Yan Shen has never adopted the institution of slavery. Unlike our Raheni neighbours, no matter the degree of lowliness, each Yan Sheni ultimately owns himself, and could expect to share at least a meagre portion of the fruits of his labour. The Office of Integration has issued a memorandum advocating for the manumission of the poor souls as the first step to securing the population's obedience. However, representatives of the Jade Seal merchants have urged caution before pursuing full abolition, with dreams of profits gleaming in their eyes. So we again have a choice to either keep slavery around, at least for a time. We'll get a lot of money for doing so, which would be pretty helpful for us in our current situation. Or we can say, a free citizen is a loyal one, unchain them. This will make us abolish slavery permanently. Any new slaves we capture in provinces will be promptly freed. We gain the end slavery in Halas modifier till the end of the game, which reduces separatism by 5. And we become a little bit more benevolent. Personally, I think freeing the slaves makes the most sense for Dahui. After all, every citizen in the empire belongs to the state, not to individuals. If people could start owning each other, they might start thinking that They're above the state, and we can't have that. Everyone is a free citizen and therefore belongs to Dahui. Alright, we're going to appease Yanhe by giving him 5,000 ducats. We could now end our appeasement of him, but should we? We can have a max of 56 absolutionism for the moment. Need to get to 80, so that would take a while. What's the prosperity looking like in Upper Yanshen? Bianfang's almost max. Ooh. These guys are very low. It's going to take a while for them to max, and a lot of them are very damaged as well because of the spirits rampaging. So I think what we'll do is we'll just say he's appeased enough. We did 3 of the 5 things he wanted. That should be appeased enough. Consider yourself appeased, Mr. Dragon. He'll appreciate it, increasing the max effective absolutionism by 15%. Also extend the rending for an extra 5 years. Now we can think about who we're gonna appease next. I wish I could see what they're gonna demand before I click, because I just don't remember. Sort of thing it's easy to forget. Well, let's just pick one at random. Let's try and pick someone who owns land that we currently own. I'm thinking either this pink one or this kind of red one. Let's go with the red one. I think he might be a good guy. The Demon of the Mist. And what began on yet another ordinary day in the Demon Hills, a subtle shift was afoot. The sentries, entrusted with watching over the foreboding terrain, observed the fog thickening, an unusual occurrence that went largely unnoticed. As the guards stood watch, some half asleep, a profound event unfolded deep within the long-forgotten crypts nestled at the heart of a temple, a place where Hokuma, the black mist of the Demon Hills, stirred from his aeonic slumber. Within the crypt, Hokuma manifested as an ominous, inky mist, seething with long-held anger. He rent the crypt asunder, engulfing and extinguishing all life within the vicinity of the complex, showing no mercy to Oni or human alike. His form, suffused with an asphyxiating density, left no survivors in its wake. For eons, Hokuma had been harnessed by the Oni for his chi and spiritual energy, but that era had drawn to a close. Now Hokuma is free once more and consumed by an unrelenting desire for vengeance upon his captors. His wrath knows no bounds, sparing none in his wake. With the protective wards of the High Temple dissipated, Hokuma could finally exact his revenge upon those who had held him captive. He crushed, dismembered, tore apart his tormentors bit by bit, employing his shapeless spirit in the same merciless manner that had been used against him. Kindness holds no place in his heart, only insatiable thirst for retribution against those who had wronged him. All shall fall before the mist. Alrighty, so here, what does he want from us? Well, we've already completed 3 of the things, actually. He wants 200 of each mana point, and he decreases our mana gain by 1 for 10 years. He wants us to take all the land in his domain, that's already done. And he wants control of the Jade Mines, which we've already done through our vassal. There's 2 other things he wants. He wants us to purge the Oni, which we're not going to do. And he wants us to eradicate the Devouring Path, which we could do. How many Devouring Path provinces are there left in the world? Or left? Well, it has to be in Rahen and Yanshen, so not necessarily the world. Let's quickly sort by religion. We haven't got that many. We could definitely convert all of those, I think. Especially if we make it our goal. So I think we'll hold off on finishing him for the moment and just convert those last few provinces. We'll give him the 200 points he wants though. And we'll give him restore his domain, and we'll give him the mines. So giving him the mines, as you can see, completely depopulates the mines, removing everyone from the territory, meaning our vassal mainly. He's now going to be reduced to just these few provinces, but I don't really mind. Personally, I don't really like this mechanic, simply because you can recolonize these mines. It should be these mines become permanently uncolonizable territory. It would feel the most appropriate. We can see here we've also got an ethereal offer. This is a simple choice. We can change our racial military to spirit military. We can see it here. Decreases yearly army professionalism, decreases army tradition from battles, decreases drill gain, increases general cost. We lose general fire, but by contrast we gain 15% morale damage, 10% fire damage received, 25% siege ability, 20% army movement speed, land attrition minus 50%, and land maintenance minus 15%. Pretty great, honestly. Although, shame about the army tradition and army professionalism, but I don't think we're going to accept this. Simply because it's not really a Dahui sort of thing to replace the whole army with a bunch of spirits. At least, not my Dahui. There's another nation that I think is much more appropriate for going along with the spirits. So we'll say no for now. Perhaps in the future, we'll get to see that other path for that particular other nation. We've managed to build up enough religious power that we can apply one of the beautiful religious benefits. The question is, of course, which one? And I think the answer is going to be this one. It will reduce regiment cost by 10%, which will help bring down our army costs. Just a tad, and a tad of decrease in army costs is all we need, really. For now, though, I think we're going to leave it here for today. Our truce with the Raj is only 1 year out, and then we'll continue our expansion. I would like to grab this one religious icon, or aspect, before we go to war. This one here that reduces province war score cost by an extra 10%. We'll have to see how it goes, though. We might end up grabbing it during the war, if not before. And then we'll probably just clean up the last few states around here that are causing trouble. I am hoping these guys demonsterize soon so I can vassalize them. Maybe we shouldn't even vassalize them, though. Problem is, if we stop protecting them during the truce, I assume these guys are just going to slam down on them, and I don't really want to interact with them if I can help it. Outside of that, Pearl's Edge still has one location. Let's take that one province off them right now to liberate more of the Ringlet Sea. Bursilera is a little too arrogant, or they think they're a little strong to give us their land. I'm not sure I agree with their assessment. Also, we're never going to get that land off Laurent unless we get a war with them. I'm not sure I'll even bother. We don't need this land for our mission tree or anything. The next time we'll probably fight a death war-ish with the Raj and try and take as much land as we can. These dwarves have also caused a bit of trouble. They've left their mines and conquered a bit of land outside. We'll need to take that off them. It's only 4 locations though, so it shouldn't be a big deal. I'd prefer the dwarves stay in their mines though. But as I said, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Do let me know what you think, either about the story, the plot, the nation, anything really. Feel free to throw stones at me because you don't like my handling of the game, that's fine too. I know how annoying it is to watch someone else play and not agree with their decisions or just not like how they play. So I do understand when people say they don't like it. On the cultural map thing before we finish, how's cultures looking? Pretty widespread. A lot of these locations that aren't included are actually just other peoples. For some reason this province, we've been Yanifying this province for quite a while now. Let's see how long. Yeah, we've had Yanification going on here for 28 years, but this province just doesn't want to flip. Maybe let's end it and then reapply it later. Or just reapply it now and see if that fixes it. But yeah, we're running out of land to Yanify, which is a good thing, really. But we'll, of course, continue to Yanify where we can. For the good of someone. Not sure who, but it's probably good, I promise. Why wouldn't you want to be from the Yan after all? Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you next time.